pleasure, and privilege, as it will be a blessing and an intellectual benefit to each of us to hear the words of our meditation leader for the day. He is a man of God, a man of knowledge of both history and theology. He is a man fighting for the reality of a beloved community. He is the pastor of Metropolitan AME Church. So it is with pleasure and privilege I present to you Reverend William H. Lamar IV. Pastor Lamar.
Thank you, Sister Edith, and good morning to all of you. Sister Edith said it beautifully, and allow me to repeat, welcome to February, welcome to our observance of our history. Allow me to invite us into a moment of stillness. Breathe on us, breath of God. Fill us with life anew, so we would love what you do love and do what you would do. Beloved, I want you, in your imaginations, to remember what it was like to gather in our beautiful sanctuary, to remember the stained glass windows etched with the names of annual conferences shortly after the long night of enslavement, who donated funds to build a grand national church in Washington, D.C. I want you to remember the pews and the pulpit furniture that held the blessed frames of Henry McNeil Turner, of Daniel Alexander Payne, of Du Bois, of Mary McLeod Bethune. I want you to imagine in front of the pulpit a table, a wooden table. Now, this table is not unique because if you grew up in the Christian tradition, almost every church has a table in front of the pulpit. Or if you have a split chancel, a table between two lecterns. I want you to imagine not only the table at Metropolitan, but the table at the churches where you grew up, AME, Baptist, Pentecostal, Presbyterian, Episcopalian, Catholic. Do you see that table? Etched on that table are these words: "This do in remembrance of me. This do in remembrance of me." The words of Jesus when he sat at table with his friends for a last time before religious establishments like our own and political power, like the power seated in the United States capital of Washington, D.C., conspired to lynch him. He shared a meal with his friends, and he told them, "Whenever you share this meal, remember me." I can recall in seminary, professor lecturing about this passage and lifting up the word translated as remembrance. That Greek word is anamnesis, to recall, to reminisce. And quite literally, to remember means not only to consider what was in the past, but it means to put back together, to remember, to put back together bodies, people, realities that have been broken. Remembering is not just recalling the past, but putting back together a people, a hope, a vision, a reality, a possibility. During this month, we are called into the work of anamnesis, into the work of remembering, not just recalling our past as facts and figures. That is the least of our work. The majority of our work, the heftiness of our work, the labor of our work, the muscularity of our work is to put back together, to remember our community, our hope, our possibility. Every table at which you sit is a table of remembrance, to recall the past, but to put back together that which has been separated and severed by oppression, by exploitation, by lies, by deception, to put back together that which has been separated. This do in remembrance of me. Remember, Jesus was never consumed with the personal. Jesus was consumed with the building of community. This morning, I would like to expand, based on the theology of Jesus, his life, his ministry, this do in remembrance of us as a people. This do in remembrance of our ancestors. This do in remembrance, listen, I'm stretching us, in remembrance of our descendants. How can we remember them? They have not even lived. No, we can remember them by putting back together a story, a hope, and a future. Let us not pass to generations unborn a brokenness. Let us remember. Allow me to take us to a passage, and I'm going to read this passage, but I'm going to ask you, if you can, to please take out something to write with and something to write on, or maybe you've got your tablet or your phone. At the end of this reading, I'm going to give us a brief assignment, and I'd ask you to join me in completing that assignment. And so you may be in the dark. I want to give you a moment to arise and to move around, and if you'd like to participate, to record what it is that I'm going to ask you to record. The passage I want to lift up for us is from Joshua, the 4th chapter. Joshua 4, beginning at the 1st verse. When the entire nation had finished crossing over the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, select 12 men, and we would change that to 12 people. Select 12 people from among the people, one from each tribe, and command them, take 12 stones from here out of the middle of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood, carry them over with you and lay them down in the place where you camp tonight. Then Joshua summoned the 12 people from the Israelites whom he had appointed, one from each tribe. Joshua said to them, pass on before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan, and each of you take up a stone on your shoulder, one for each of the tribes of the Israelites, so that this might be a sign among you. Listen, when your children come to ask in time, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall tell them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off in front of the ark of the covenant of the Lord when it crossed over the Jordan. The waters of the Jordan were cut off, so these stones shall be to the Israelites a memorial forever. The Israelites did as Joshua commanded. They took up 12 stones out of the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord told Joshua, carried them over with them to the place where they camped, and laid them down there. Verse 6, so that this may be a sign among you when your children come to ask, what do these stones mean to you? Anamnesis, recalling the work of God and putting back together the community, the hope, the possibility. Now, What I'd like to ask you to do with me is to write down the names of the 12 stones you will carry with you. For me, the stones are people. They could be people who are with the ancestors. They could be people who are alive today. They could be family members, artists, activists, authors, persons who mean something to you, persons who cause you delight and joy. During this month, I want us to take these 12 stones with us, and not just during this month, but for the rest of our lives. I'm going to be silent for at least a minute and a half, and I'll ask you to meditate and write down the names of the 12 stones who will help you in your work of anamnesis, of putting back together that which has been severed and separated. Please join me in naming your stones, writing them down now. Beloved, as you continue to record the names of your stones, I'm going to call aloud the names of my stones, and because we are silent, except for my voice, I would ask you, after you have heard my stones, to take time in your own way to call the names of your stones. My stones, those who will help me in the work of anamnesis: Sally Green Lamar, Gladys Hall Austin, Juanita Dolores Lamar, Fannie Lou Hamer, Dorothy Cotton, Katie Geneva Cannon, Prathia Hall, Betty Shabazz, Coretta Scott King, Toni Morrison, Jarena Lee, Harriet Tubman. May their memories be for a blessing. May they help me in my work of anamnesis. Would you take a moment where you are to call the names of your stones? Friends, we are called into the work of remembrance, of putting back together that which has been broken. of joining again hope, possibility. This do in remembrance of me. This do in remembrance of us. Amen.